Welcome to our Two Witnesses broadcast. I'm Sean, and this is my good friend, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank you for being with us today. We really do appreciate all of our viewers and subscribers, and we want you to know this. Two Witnesses is all about sharing biblical content with prophetic insights for victorious last days living. So let's get started, Pat. What are we talking about?
Well, today we're talking about the third installment
Third install.
on my near-death experience.
Near-death experience.
Yeah.
Well, you had quite an experience, and we when we started on this, we wanted to break it down to basically three broadcasts, but the last second part of this is extended to two broadcasts, so this is our third, like you said.
Yeah.
So let me do a quick recap. On the first one, we just talked about what led up to this, and you talked about the area where you'd gotten to disobedience with the Lord.
Yeah.
And how that kind of set the stage for what happened eventually with you physically.
Yeah.
And then on the second part, we started getting more detail about what you went through physically.
Right.
And then you also had an encounter with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And you said you were actually in heaven.
Yeah.
And I talked a little bit with you about this, but you said you went to a place.
Yeah.
And you and I, we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
So you've talked to me at different times when you've gone to the heaven or had encounters with the Lord. Sometimes you'll go to a place. So a lot of times I think everybody thinks you're going to the throne room every time you go to heaven. Right?
No, not every time.
Not every time.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on obviously what the Lord has his priority on.
Yeah.
But you were saying that in this encounter, one of the things you experienced was the light and the sound light spectrum. And you said that you were hearing a voice, right? And to you, it seemed like it was around 3 days.
Something like that.
Something like that.
When you're there, you really don't have a sense of time at all because you're out of time. You're outside of time.
Yeah.
You know, God does not live in time. He's eternal.
That's true.
Everything up there is eternal.
Yeah.
Nothing, all that stuff. But anyway, so I can't specifically say, yes, it was dogmatically 3 days.
Right.
It could have been a week. Oh, I know. I don't know.
You were out of the body.
Yeah.
And you were caught up in heaven.
Yeah.
And there was an encounter you had. There was a place where you're at, or a space, I guess, maybe. And you heard the voice of the Lord. And you knew it was the voice of the Father was speaking to you.
It was very much.
And you said it was pretty much a monologue.
Yeah, it was a monologue.
The Lord didn't let you get a word
question.
in.
I got one word in. That was it.
I was going to say the Lord didn't let you get a word in edgewise, but he let you get one word in anyway. Yeah. Yes, sir. You've got my attention.
Yeah.
So during that time, it was primarily the Lord speaking truth to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you said before that what you were hearing had a delivering, healing kind of effect.
Yeah, it did.
So, and I know you mentioned rejection, and there was some other things, but can you tell us a little bit about specifically what you were hearing that it was like it was hot air, it was really hitting home with you, and that you could literally feel it like changing you, like healing or restoring or delivering you?
Well, it was kind of interesting because at the time that I was listening to this, I didn't realize that was happening.
Okay.
I was not cognizant of that.
Yeah. So at the time, you wouldn't really be aware of that.
No, I knew what I was hearing.
Yeah.
Very clearly, and it was interesting because I got back with several people that I had to make things right with. This stiff arm thing that I mentioned before.
Yeah, keeping people at arm's distance.
Well, the Lord started naming names.
Oh, really?
About who you needed
to
get that straightened out
communicate with.
Right. And so there I am. As soon as I was well enough to talk on the phone, I started making phone calls.
So the Father was very specific with you.
Oh, yeah, very specific.
Okay, and he gave you details about what you were doing and how it was affecting them, et cetera.
More about how it was affecting me.
How it was affecting you, yeah.
I was not in a good place.
So give me an example. You don't have to name any names, but an example of something that the Father spoke to you that was in relationship to somebody that you knew.
Yeah.
And how, because you were keeping them at arm's distance, how it was affecting you.
Yeah. Well, specifically with this happened with several names that were brought up was the Lord said, look, I've placed them in your life for a reason.
Okay.
It's because they've got what you need and you've got what they need.
Right.
There's supposed to be an exchange here.
Yeah.
An interchange.
Okay.
Right. But I wasn't allowing that to happen.
Right.
Okay. And the Lord specifically said, you need to receive them for who they are in me, in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And receive from them on that level.
Okay.
And recognize who they are in the kingdom.
Okay.
Okay. Not who they are in the flesh.
Right. Not knowing them after the flesh.
Right.
Or 2 Corinthians 5.
But understanding and discerning who they are in the kingdom.
I got you.
And receive what they've got. Specifically to minister to you.
So was a lot of your distancing on that, it was because of the negative experience you had?
Yeah. Well, that negative experience went back from when I was a kid.
So this was...
Yeah, this was not just...
Yeah, it was more than what happened.
Yeah, it was more than just what happened.
In the ministerial setting.
Yeah.
Okay. So really what the Lord was showing you is that you still had some deep-seated childhood trauma.
Oh, I did.
Right.
I did.
That was affecting how you received others, and particularly how they could have a role in your life.
Yeah. I held people at a distance out of fear, out of
rejection.
The interesting thing about rejection, it will cause you, if you're laboring under spirit of rejection, or the influence of rejection, the spirit of rejection, it will cause you sometimes to reject people you don't know why you're rejecting.
Right.
Or it will flip around and cause them to reject you, and they don't know why they're doing the rejection.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Or it will cause both ends.
Parties, yeah.
They're rejecting each other without realizing why.
It's a double whammy.
Yeah, it's a double whammy.
Yeah.
It's like a double-edged spear.
But it is a spirit, right?
Yeah, but it's a double-edged spear. It's a double-ended spear.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. You hold that between two people, neither one can get close.
Wow. Yeah.
That's the way the spirit of rejection works.
Yeah.
It's either going to work against this way.
Right.
Or between the two.
Interesting. So you went through this then.
Yeah.
I guess you've seen it in all three ways.
Yeah.
And the Lord was showing you specifically with some individuals.
It's like two porcupines trying to get together for a wild night of partying. That just doesn't really happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you wonder how porcupines reproduce at that rate. But anyway, it's a different story.
But I mean,
I do. I get
it's
it.
like trying to cuddle up to a porcupine. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, when you have the same thing going on, then it's like trying to mix, oil and water, right?
Exactly.
It's just not going to mix.
No.
So this was one of the things that the Father pointed out to you.
Yeah.
That there was
like I said, he was naming names of who I needed him to get things right with.
Okay. And this was rooted in the rejection. That he spoke to you specifically about the rejection?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
Basically, he said, this has been a part of you your entire life, but it can no longer continue. I mean, that was pretty cut and dried.
That's pretty plain spoken, isn't it?
Yeah.
So at that point, then, I think we both agree when the Lord speaks things, grace is there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you knew when he said this to you, the mere fact I'm saying this to you means the grace is there for you.
Yeah. Now, I didn't think of that when he was saying it.
But
I just kind of went, yes, sir. Whatever you say.
Well, I mean,
kids or not.
No, and I can understand that because, God can speak very authoritatively when he wants to.
Oh, and the amazing thing is, it's amazing how fast you can get an agreement. Especially when you're up there.
Yeah, there's no flesh to get in the way,
There's
right?
no flesh in the way. There's no demonic in the way.
Yeah, there's no demonic.
Right.
Yeah. It's just you and the Lord.
Yeah, knowing that at any moment he could decide to make you a permanent resident.
Sorry for laughing, man.
Well,
but it's true.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you said that at a certain point you were beginning to think, well, it looks like this is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm at the end of my journey here.
Yeah.
And then he started talking about when you get back and you start your ministry again.
Yeah. And then he began to really talk to me about restarting the ministry, getting back involved, because I knew where for years, and you know, I've talked about this at length. I think we had our first conversation back in the 90s about it, where the Lord's taking us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't want to go there. You know why? Because I knew it was going to require a lot more involvement than I wanted to be involved. It was going to require a lot more commitment on my end than I wanted to be committed to people.
Yeah, yeah. What was it particularly with people that it was the real hindrance for you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
When you got to start, you know, walking with people through their mess.
Yeah.
It's not a. You don't always want to do it. You don't always want to be there to change the diapers. It's true.
It's true.
You know, you don't want to be there to clean up their mess.
It's true. I know what you're saying.
You know.
I guess to me, how I look at that is it's an act of love.
Well, yeah, it is an act of love.
Well, I'm just saying that.
But at the time, I didn't have that kind of love.
Right. And I'm not saying I always have that kind of love. I'm just saying that I resolve to the fact that I know that's what's required.
Yeah.
And I know that if I'm not walking in love like that, I'm going to be going to the woodshed.
Yeah.
I'll be having a conversation and the Father will be dealing with me. I've been down that road a few times.
When you get in that kind of a situation with the Father, there's only one response.
Yeah. His way.
And that is, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done.
Your will be done, Father.
That's the only response.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right?
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of like we just did our message on Moses at the bush, right?
Yeah.
And, God gave him a revelation of his holiness, and the immediate response was fear and humility, prostrating himself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same way as when God speaks to you that plainly. What are you going to say? You're going to argue?
That's not the time you get in an argument.
It's not a good place to. No.
He's holding all the cards.
Yeah. Well,
he's holding the entire deck.
Yeah.
You got nothing.
I think let me say this, because this is really an important part of our development spiritually, right? It's an immature mindset when we feel like I need to make my case to you, Lord, right?
Yeah.
If God is saying for us to do it, it's always what's best for us. Now, we may not be at that place yet in our development.
That doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable.
In our soul, our mind, or whatever. But where he wants us to get to is the place where there's a quick obedience because we trust him.
Right.
Because, okay, Father, you know what's best.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to drag my feet. I'm not going to kick against the pricks here because I'm just hurting myself by doing this. I'm just prolonging the inevitable. Well, the inevitable. I mean, if I'm really going to walk with the Lord at some point, I'm going to yield in this area, or I'm just going to keep going around the mountain indefinitely, and that gets old pretty quick.
Yeah.
So you kind of
and you never get you can go around the mountain enough, you never arrive to your intended destination.
Right, and that's not good. I mean, realistically, you were going around the mountain for about 13 years.
Yeah,
you're just sort of like doing your
thing. I begun to wear a pretty good rut.
Yeah. Well, for those who are watching and those who are viewing, wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. And I appreciate my dear friend, Pat, being open and transparent about this. And I know it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but he's opening up and he's sharing this because he cares about you and he wants you to learn from his life experience. Don't make these mistakes.
Don't do this.
Okay. We all at some time in our life are challenged with, are we going to surrender our will to the Father? Sometimes it's easier because it's not a big sacrifice for us.
Yeah.
Other times it can really wear on you. Like in your case, because of these those childhood traumatic things that happen.
Yeah.
You had a defense mechanism that you had put into place that went back into your childhood. And God, I think, graciously did not go to the root of that completely, but he was working you towards that. And I think there's a point there where, like to your point a minute ago, you knew the Lord had more for you to do, but it was going to require a greater depth to yourself.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's where you begin to draw back.
Right.
And not realizing it, a lot of that was triggered by that root of rejection that it really had not been fully dealt with.
Yeah.
And now you're on the other side of that to a pretty good degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't speak for you. You have to say. But the fact that you're doing this and opening up and being this plain spoken, to me, is an indication you've definitely grown. Mm-hmm. And I've known you for years.
Yeah.
And I can say this, Pat, and this is not patronizing or anything. You're a different person.
Mm.
You're a different person.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And I've told Kathy this repeatedly. I said, look, since Pat went through what he went through, he is not the same guy that I've known. I mean, he's Pat. Don't get me wrong. But he's different. Mm-hmm. On the inside, he's different. I can tell.
Yeah.
I know that you're at a deeper place of surrender to the Lord than I've ever known you. Mm-hmm. And I've known you for many years.
Yeah.
But there's no question. It wouldn't have been that long ago you and I wouldn't have sat down and done something like this.
No.
We wouldn't have gotten this in-depth. We wouldn't have been this personal, this transparent.
Yeah.
Okay? There's some subjects like what we just did, nine broadcast on when ministers fall. We wouldn't have touched that. Are you kidding? No way.
No.
Here we jump into it, feet first. 9 videos on it.
Yeah, I was like, you brought that up, and I was like, oh man, we really want to go there.
I know, and I my wife kept saying to me, I think you should pray about this. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't want to pray about this. I'm not sure. I don't even want to think about this, right? And the next thing you know, the Lord's like, no, you need to do it.
Oh man,
and some of this is cathartic. I think that's fair. But really, ministry in a lot of ways is.
Yeah.
I mean, effective ministry where you've walked through things, not just where you know the word and you can kind of lay out the blueprint, but where you've actually, built the structure or you've walked the land.
Yeah.
There's a different level of impartation that comes from that. Yeah. And that, I think, is really what we're moving more into here because of what you've gone through. And myself, I've got another whole testimony that, that I can get into sometime.
Yeah, you do.
But anyway, so you had this time with the Father. He's speaking to you. You're getting specific information about things that have been there for a while. Mm-hmm. Is there, and I don't want to go anywhere you're not comfortable with, but is there anything else that was really stood out that the Father was putting his finger on and saying, hey,
well, yeah, the whole learning to respect people.
Okay.
At another level.
Yeah.
And receiving them for who they are in the kingdom.
Okay.
That was huge, I'd never even really given any thought, tell you the truth.
Right.
Okay. I guess part of the issue was, and you know me, you've known me for years, I have been so down on titles.
Titles, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a soapbox of yours.
I really, I look for function, not a title, right? When I meet people. I agree with that. Where are they functioning?
Yeah.
Right. Not what shingle they got nailed to the front door.
For our viewers, that would be those who call themselves apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, whatever. We're not against those things. We believe in the ascension gifts. Okay?
Yeah.
But what Pat's referring to here is over the years, and I've seen this too, different ones will sort of advertise themselves as something, but there's not always the function and the fruit of that in their life. So for whatever reason, they choose a title.
Thinking that's going to make it.
Right. And
don't cut it.
Yeah.
In the kingdom. If you got any shredded discernment, you can see right through it. What?
Shred of discernment.
Yeah.
You have to forgive me.
I'm sorry.
No, he says things in ways that makes me laugh. That's all.
I'm sorry. I don't mean
a shred of discernment.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know discernment if it came up and bit him on the backside. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead. So,
but that is, been one of my pet peeves is
I know
if you've got that shingle out there, I better see some evidence. Otherwise, I'm not going to say it out of my mouth.
Right.
Right?
Right. Well, it is in function. But, people are at different places in their maturity and their development.
And we can discern that.
We can work with that.
Yeah.
If there really is something there.
Yeah.
Even if it's in, an immature state, that's
but
okay.
What really drives me crazy is you got this herd of wannabes. What?
Herd of wannabes.
Oh, it's true.
There goes a herd of wannabe. This is transferring good to our broadcast here. Look at that herd of wannabes, man. They just ran across the plane there. Okay. All right. Well, I
don't know why I word certain things the way I do, but I do.
I know. So. All I know is that when you do it, it cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he's looking, why are you laughing? I said, because the way you said it. Wannabe.
Yeah.
Heard of them. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like wildebeest, wannabes, same thing, right?
Yeah.
There's a whole herd of them out there. Okay. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So in this process of learning to really, I think the word I would use, you used the word respect.
Yeah.
And I like that. I think that's a good term. A kingdom term is to give honor to who honor is due. Right.
Yeah.
So what in your perspective, look, hindsight, and after you've had, the 3-hour or 3-day monologue, what from your perspective, what was it that caused you not to really honor or to respect them or see them for who they were?
A number of reasons. Probably one of the key ones was okay. I can tell you.
All right. The wheels have been turning there.
One particular person I didn't like to be around him.
Okay.
Because I knew the direction the Lord wanted me to go.
Right.
Was what they were doing. And I didn't want to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And Judy, you know who I'm talking about. Her name is Judy.
Okay.
She showed up in a dream 2 weeks before I met her.
Okay.
And I saw her when I walked through that door. It scared me.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
The woman in my dream, not of my dreams, the woman in my dream showed up.
Yeah.
And in that dream,
go ahead.
I knew who she was. I knew why she was in my life. I knew all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I did not want to receive her in the capacity that she functions in my life.
In your life. Right. You were fine with her functioning that way with other people, but not with you.
Not towards me.
Okay.
Because
you knew it was going to get personal.
Well, it was not only going to get personal, but it was like, let's just lay it out. Okay. The A word.
Okay.
You know what I mean by that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's functioning in that capacity.
Okay.
I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to go near it. I didn't want to get a whiff of it.
All right.
I didn't want to,
what's
go to that level.
What's funny to me about that is, I don't know if you remember this. This is years ago.
We probably ought to explain where the A word is.
We will. But when we were in Houston and we were doing the church plant, the Lord told me that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
And I said to you, this is what the Lord is doing. And you looked at me like, no. He's like, don't say it. Don't do it. Don't say it, Sean. Don't
say it.
And I was like, well,
please don't say it.
He was my, elder, my senior brother, what do you want to say? So I was like, I deferred to him, right? I deferred to you.
Yeah.
But I heard from the Lord.
Oh, yeah.
And I also knew that you had given me a similar word in a certain P area.
Yeah.
and I knew that you were speaking the truth to me, and I knew I needed to receive it, So to me, it was kind of interesting because I went through that, and it made a major transformation in my life, put me at a different level.
Yeah.
Then the Lord gives me a word for you.
Yeah.
And it, to me, I'm looking like, okay, that's a good thing. I mean, it was a good thing for me. When you did it to me. Yeah. So I'm thinking, well, why wouldn't this be good to you? But boy, the look on your face when I said it, I was like, well, I guess we better just be moving right along here. Yeah. I don't think he wants to really go any further into this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back all the way back to when I was a teenager. I had a guy, never met him. He got in my face one day, called out the P word, and I said, no, I'm not, and don't you ever call me one.
Yeah, you told me about that.
I was like, I was in his face. I got mad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went back later and I said, Lord, why did I respond that way? And the Lord said, rebellion.
Oh. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, that's a strong word there, brother.
Okay. Mm. That coupled with, I didn't even know they existed anymore.
Well, we need to let.
I literally didn't.
Yeah, we need to let our viewers in on this. Okay.
I suppose we should.
So the A word is apostle, and the P word is prophet. So now the cat's out of the bag. Okay. But let me say this about this for both of us. Okay. You can see we have quite a bit of this, called gray hair here.
Yeah.
We're not novices. We've been saved for many years, walked with the Lord, and served in many different capacities of ministry over the years. So operating in the prophetic to us is a function.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not hanging out a shingle and saying I'm this or I'm that. We're just operating in the calling that God's given us.
And this happened this last week again. Somebody said, oh, so-and-so, Pat.
Right.
And I said, look, it's just Pat.
Right.
Don't give me this title thing.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to say this, about this, because for whatever reason, in the body of Christ, maybe it's just the Western church, I don't know, but we have no problem calling somebody an evangelist. That's pretty simple. Yeah. People call themselves pastor so-and-so all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No one really has an issue with teacher. Okay. No. I mean, because most pastors are teachers to some degree anyway. Yeah. But for some reason, when we get into the apostolic and the prophetic, it becomes a stigma.
Yeah.
Okay. And those who operate in those functions, they have to do it anyway, whether it's received, not received, whether it's understood, not understood.
Recognized or not recognized.
Recognized, not recognized. It's a job. You got to carry it out.
Yeah. But I've noticed this thing. And I'm not saying because it's a bad word, and I don't consider these bad words.
Right.
They're functions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but I noticed people get really weird when they start calling you this.
Right.
They start acting weird.
Yeah.
You notice that?
Yeah. Look, we met with a couple recently.
Yeah.
Okay. And he started calling me man of God.
Uh-huh.
I get uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Now look, do I perceive myself as a man of God? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But I get uncomfortable people putting that title on me.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know what that means.
If you're doing it to identify function, it's one thing.
Yeah. But this is not.
But somehow they think
this is elevating.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I don't like it. I get uncomfortable with it. I don't know why we feel like we need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I introduce myself, I don't say I am Prophet Sean Duffy.
Yeah.
My name's Sean.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if you ask me how the Lord uses me, I function prophetically.
Yeah.
But not exclusively. I also function as a teacher.
Right.
I do the work of an evangelist.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not my identity. That's a function that I have. My identity is Sean, and I'm a son of God.
Yeah.
That's really the crux to the matter.
Correct.
Right there. And when we get off of that is when we start elevating, and that leads to downfall.
I'm so adverse to that. I went to one country, and they literally, when they opened the door and I was standing there, they literally fell to the floor and grabbed me by the ankles.
Ooh.
I grabbed him.
Yeah.
By the back of the neck.
Yeah.
And I stood him up, and I said, Don't ever do that to me again.
Don't ever do that. Yeah. Well, I don't know that we're going to be able to solve this issue. Okay.
Yeah.
All we can do is communicate from our perspective how we believe the Lord has shown us, is that it is in function, it's not in title.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever function you have, if you're really functioning that way, the manifestation will be there.
Yeah.
The operation of the Spirit will be there, the gifts of the Spirit will be there, and the fruit will be there. People will look and say, yeah, that is the fruit of that kind of ministry.
And the manifestation anointing will be there.
And if it is, then, you just function. And if you recognize, great. If you're not recognized, that you're not doing it to be recognized.
No.
You're doing it because it's an assignment. It's a job. You got to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so now looking back, you have more of a right perspective on it.
Yeah.
Okay. And in a large part because you identified some things in yourself that were partly why you drew back.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also partly why it was difficult for you to give honor at times or receive
I
certain
had
ones.
to get to that point of where obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And I had to get to that point of where the obedience outweighed the aversion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I heard one man say it this way: when the pain of staying where you're at is greater than the pain of going forward, go forward.
Yeah.
That's a true statement.
It's very true.
We're going to need to wrap this up. We over our time frame here. We're going to have to do another one on this because I don't think we've quite finished where we need to go on this. But listen, we want to thank you for being with us today. We do really appreciate all of our viewers and subscribers. We want you to know this also. We are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, and we have some Instagram shorts. And if you've enjoyed the video broadcast, press that share, that like and share, pass it on to your viewers, your subscribers. And it always helps us to build the channel if you'll become a subscriber with us. And also, we have an email, and that's twowitnessesbroadcast@gmail.com. And you can send us an email there if you have a prayer request or anything. Just drop us a line. Make some comments down below. Let us know what you think about the broadcast. But we do appreciate you. And until we are with you again, we are
Two witnesses.
Two witnesses.